Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Shahrul Ferdyanshah, NIM 2021-11002 from Kelas 2A Manajemen. Impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the economy of Indonesia. COVID-19 is a global health problem including in Indonesia. The increased case of COVID-19 proved to have quite a significant impact on the economy globally, which may have affected stability in Indonesia. Based on the research, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic affect the economy in Indonesia. The effects sector during the COVID-19 pandemic are transportation, tourism, trade, health, and other sectors, but the economy sector most affected by COVID-19 is the household sector. Optimizing the potential in the country, the decline of BA7 day reserve repo rate, the interest rate of deposit facility and lending facility interest rate, monitoring of global and domestic economy development detected by Indonesia was assessed previously so that inflation and stability remain in control. The increased case of COVID-19 has affected the world economy, including Indonesia. The COVID-19 pandemic that has been established by the affect the transportation, tourism, trade, health, and other sectors. The lockdown policy is taken by various countries to prevent further spread of COVID-19 so that economy activity are hidden and put pressure on the world economic growth in the future, including Indonesia economic growth. The government encourages the ministry and institution as well as the local government to accelerate spending primarily on the first quarter 2020 schedule. This was done to reduce the pressure on Indonesian economic growth due to the pandemic COVID-19 as well as a decline in commodity price. The World Bank is projecting Indonesia's economic growth this year will be depressed at 2.1%. This is due to the continue with price contribution of COVID-19 both domestically and abroad. Bank Indonesian BI has also researched the project economic growth of the RI to under 5% or only about 2%. Pandemic COVID-19 will have a bad implication for the world economy and Indonesia this year, as it occurs along with decline commodity price and financial market volatility. The relationship between inflation and economic growth is one of the debatable issue and the most important macroeconomic discussion among macroeconomic policy makers and monetary authorities in all countries. Inflation that occurred this year in the projection will be increased to 3% because of the tight supply of food and devices depreciation of countries that are expected to be offset partly by the decline in the price of non-subsidized fuels as well as additional substance for electricity and food. However, in the years 2021, inflation is preferred to return to normal level, which is 2.8%, which is usually applied to grown to 5.2%, meanwhile in terms inflation, tourism, and commodity export revenue, there is an estimated decline that results in the current transaction deficit reaching 9% of the gross domestic product (GDP) in 2020. When an economy is going through a persistent inflation, gross domestic product or GDP increase, this does not actually reflect the true growth in an economic. Hence, the rate of inflation must be subtracted from that GDP to get the real growth percentage called the real GDP. The government also conducts the refreshing budgeting and launches facial stimulus package Fall 1 and Fall 2, which are expected to support the real sector. In general, the current government top priority are support for the healthcare sector, strengthening social safety nets, and salvage business sector. However, for Indonesia, COVID-19 already has significant implications for the tourism sector, lowering export performance, economic growth performance. The most impactful main sector are the accommodation sector, transportation, retail, and manufacturing of the current transaction balance deficit. The government also conducts refreshing budgeting and launch facial stimulus, which are expected to support the real sector in general. The current government priority are support for the healthcare sector, strength social safety, already has significant invention for salvage business sector. Based on Manulife investment management data, Indonesia is a country that has decreased interest rate, decreased major sector such as tourism sector, aviation, transportation, property, and social security. Based on the sector that have impacted the impact of pandemic COVID-19, the household sector has been of significant sector because it does not conduct economic activity. Small and medium enterprises or OMKM and corporations become a sector affected, an indication in the financial sector in general. The impact of COVID-19 is quite significant to the Indonesian economy. The global economic drafting and manufacturing industry performance will have an impact on export performance in Indonesia. The World Bank, the World Bank is projecting Indonesian economic growth at this year's will be depressed at 3%. This is due to continue with express distribution of COVID-19 both domestically and abroad. When Indonesia or BI has also the project's economy, the project of economic growth on the under 6% or only about 5%. Pandemic COVID-19 will have a bad implication for the world economic and Indonesia this year as it comes along with declining commodity price and financial market difficulty. The relationship between inflation and economic growth is one of the top issue and the most important discussion among policymakers and monetary authentic all countries. Inflation that brought this year's in the projection will be increased to 3% because of the price supply of food and depreciation of currencies. They expect to be offset partly by the decline in price and non-substitute goods as well as additional subsidies for electric and food. However, in the year 2021, inflation is believed to return to normal level, which is 8%. Shortage of raw materials or capital goods. Of course, Indonesia need to find such shortage from other country even more expensive price. Optimizing the domestic potential is important to be done as a result of China economic slowdown and is expected to be an alternative production center so as to contribute to global supply during COVID-19 pandemic. Indonesian steps such as the decline of BI 7-day reserve repo rate, BI 7DRR, interest rate deposit facility, and lending facility, interest rate monitoring of global and domestic economic development conducted by Indonesian associate precisely so that inflation and stability remain to control. This result this result in the tourism sector being paralyzed so that employment is increasing because tourism is one of the containers that provide jobs for the community zone around the tourism and outside society. It is not only a temporary paralysis of the tourism sector, but, but employees of others people of companies have expressed the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Worker activity that is usually done outside the home directly for to be done in the house, and there are many employees who are threatened by the termination of work ratings or layoffs because of the many jobs that are not possible to be done at home. As does the production activity dependent on the machine that is the production place. The termination of production of this work is also done due to lack of forecasts from customer and exports to certain country so that it will instability export and reduce the company revenue. Even the company can suffer loss. There is also another cause of diminishing the employees because of the scarcity of raw material to be product important from the outside country, such as from China, so that it will impact industrial activity. Companies that tries to upward and is interest in the number of unemployment rate can it ability and reduce gross domestic product GDP and inhibit Indonesian economic growth. Deposit the policy they don't, but there are still people who misuse this policy, such as learning activity and work at home in as for vacation outside the city. Thus, this policy can expand and accelerate the spread of coronavirus, but from being disseminated by visitors to local community as well as disseminated by local community to visitors. Coronavirus outbreak in China was also suspected to have impact on Indonesia agriculture that during this time the export of palm oil is one of the largest export contributor to China. However, in February 2020, the realization only reached 84 tons. This figure is very far when compared with the previous month's realization of January 2020 of 487 tons, and in the same period of 2019 that reached 371 tons. In terms of the import of food, Indonesia, which has a deficit of garlic from China, can only import garlic from China for 23 tons by February 2020. This figure also dropped drastically when compared with the previous year's import regime. In February 2020, China likes import decline was also seen on fruit commodity. The fruit commodity imports will significantly by 78% from 100 million to 300 million. Since the outbreak of the coronavirus, in addition to enforcing the restriction policy of importing living animals from China, the government also stopped flights from and to China as of February 2020, which of course will also affect the Indonesian tourism sector. Many travel and flight companies suffer loss due to flight termination from and to China. Since the implementation, the number of China, China, the number of China's tourists visit to Bali has decreased in 2019 from from 60 million for tourists as many as 1 million tourists, or 18% were from China. However, in January to February 2020, not 88, 88 Chinese tourists canceled to Bali. It greatly affect the economic of Bali province. In February 2020, state expectations showed an improvement from January 2020. Realization of state income and rents paid to of February 2020 has reached percent of the grade of the budget 2020. The realization is supported by the tax receipt recorded as positive growth, which is growing by 3%, which such condition until the of February 2020, the realization of taxation receipt record at 177 trillion, or has reached 9% of the target stipulated in the state budget. Non-tax country acceptance reached 38 trillion and amount 18% of the target. The growth of tax revenue was driven by the growth of earth and building tax revenue and other tax, the growing 98%. For non-migas PPH, the assessment of its acceptance is still supported by the acceptance of 21, which grew by 10%. PPH final, the realization of customs and exits impact, the research 11% of the target in the budget of 2020 and was ably grow 51%. The actual realization of the appetence in support by the acceptance of access and import duty, the growth in this custom and access exposition is still different from the record to tax revenue of 700%. The Indonesian government has taken various measures throughout the social safety nets to help the people economic affected by the COVID-19, either directly or indirectly. The step, the step, the break the COVID-19 deployment chain is just to have an economic impact on the growth. This measure that the government is seriously providing an economic stimulus package. The government realization the true non-medical impact of the plague caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus and can be seen from the many people who lost their jobs and livelihoods because they had to be home. Saying the condition, the government has made various efforts to help the community economic through various policy that only rely on economic growth and policies that limit the circulation of assets among the rich people. Some of the steps to be taken are as follows: acceleration of shopping, ministry, institutional spending such as PKH and health, as well as non-operational shopping, tourism center through various support programs such as acceleration of development of 5 super priority tourism destination Lakatoba, Borobudur, Likupang, Labuan the government visit as facial and non-facial policy to stimulate the tourism sector, encourage and acceleration to labor intensive spending of productive activity that absorb a lot of manpower, such as infrastructure shopping in the center and the region are optimization of the role of the APBN as a flexible instrument in response to economic situation condition by staying which the limits of state economic situation constitutions by staying in with the limits of state and resident acceleration development of the people's business credit. Pandemic COVID-19, in addition to being a global health problem, also has implication on the economy in Indonesia. Indonesia potentially grow negative 0%, which is the worst case scenario. The economic sector most affected by COVID-19 is the household sector. Optimization the potential in the country, the deadline of PA 7-day reserve repo rate or PA 7 BDRR, the interest rate of deposit facility and lending facility interest rate monitoring of global and domestic economy development conducted by Indonesian was assessed precisely so that inflation and stability remain in control economic. Thank you.